I'm a lifelong New Haven resident, actually born and raised here in New Hallville. Still live over here on 188 Hazel Street, residing with my mom at the moment, and my grandma who just passed away last Thursday, 99 years old. So again, for me, I traveled back and forth through the last 44 years of my life, and to try to see where the future might take me. But once I dig into the past, I always remember a community that was very rich in love, committed to supporting one another. Growing up here, I could walk from one side of town to the next side of town. It was never a problem. I always ran into somebody that knew one of my family members who could make a call to my mom if I was doing something wrong and probably chastise me at the same time. And then I get chastised again when I go home. But, there were a lot of different elements here growing up. We had plenty of community centers for children to go to after school. If I didn't want to stay on this side of town, I could trickle to the other side of town, go to the Albee Booth, Boys and Girls Club, places where we just could stay there until it was time for the place to close and we had to go home. High school, I ran through high school, a pretty decent student, probably could have been a straight A student had I applied myself, but school was kind of simple to me. So, I just took my grades and ran with it, graduated high school, had a 4-year paid scholarship to several colleges. I didn't attend any except for Gateway because by that time I was already in the life of crime and hustling. At the age of 15, I wind up moving out of my mom's house due to an argument. I never stepped foot back in there to spend the night until approximately about 90 days ago. Now that I have to take care of my mom, she's blind with 2 cataracts, so she really can't see. For the remaining time, I'm not gonna say I've been on my own. I have a ton of family members here, a ton of friends here, a huge support system inside this city since birth, basically. So I've never really been alone, but I've been on my own, kind of just doing my own thing, not taking anything from anybody, not asking anybody, just kind of making my own way as I went along. So again, I got myself through high school, I graduated, I started Gateway, got to about the end of my first semester, and then I got arrested with a firearm. And this was actually not my first time being arrested with a firearm, but my second time. I served 1 year mandatory. Came home probably 6 months before I was back in trouble. I was on the run for about 4 years before I got arrested again. I wind up serving 2 years and 4 months before I was discharged out of corrections that second time. Still in the mix, going through the motions, whatever the case may be, a parent now for the first time, and then I want to say maybe a month after my first child was born, I was back in jail. Trying to figure out what to do next. My last incarceration, I did 6 years, 11 months, and like 14 days from an 8-year sentence. Once I came home in 2004, though, I made some decisions that I was never going back. I didn't care what I was going to have to do. I just wasn't going back there. It was never a place for me since day one, but somehow I always led myself back into that institution. So I came home. First time I actually got to see my son run. He was like maybe 5, playing basketball at Farnham. Here's this little kid, smallest thing on his team, but had the biggest heart, right? So that was part of my commitment, to never miss another game, to always just, kind of be around, because I was a kid. I played baseball, I ran track, I did several sports, but I never had parents in the crowd, so when I hit a home run, there was nobody for me to really look into the crowd for that extra cheer. you know what I mean? Running hurdles, I don't care what I want. I never had those people in my corner at that particular time. Well, a few, so like my aunt and my cousin's mom. But you know, for me, it was a commitment to begin my fatherhood process. Since then, I've had 3 more children, my youngest being 10, which is my last remaining son. And we'll get to that. So anyway, I come home in 2004, 3-time convicted felon. My brother's still incarcerated. He's serving a 15-year sentence for manslaughter. My other cousin's incarcerated, and I have 1 cousin left on the streets that I was hustling with. But the goal again was to figure out what to do next, right? Through the grace of God, one of my cousins came home. Well, my cousin that was incarcerated, his name is Todd. He actually came home with a new game plan on running some businesses. So he had connected with a couple of guys, got into the print industry, and before you know it, he was doing printing. His partner wound up closing down the business. He came to myself and my brother with a business proposition. We had a few dollars, so we ran with it. This was 2008. We've been entrepreneurs since then. All of us still retain companies. My uncle, who used to be heavy with drugs in the streets, now holds the legacy that my grandfather left us, which is a tire company, Reeves Tire Shop. My grandfather was a 1-armed tire man. For as long as I've known him, I've never seen him with two arms. So he had 1 arm, but he can change tires and fix flats faster than most men I know with 2, right? One of my biggest superheroes my entire life. I've never seen this man say he can't do something. I've never actually seen him take a day off from work. I've never seen him sick physically. Again, he was everything in my world, right? That was my father, my grandfather. That was one of my biggest supporters, and both of my grandparents, you know. Growing up in the Reeves house, we didn't have a lot, but we had everything. You know, every day after school, we would meet at my grandmother's house, myself and every cousin that I had. You know, my grandmother and grandfather had 8 kids, and we would all congregate over there until my parents came home from work picking us up. So my family, we're very, 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 very close. My grandmother, she never worked. She spent her whole life pretty much dedicated to servicing us. She passed away last week, Thursday, at 99. But amazing woman. You know, an amazing couple, nonetheless. You know, they migrated from Georgia and Florida to here. My grandmother came up here with nobody. My grandfather brought his mom and his sister, and they weren't really too friendly with my gram. So it was like he was taking care of 2 families at the same time that didn't want to interconnect with one another until his mom passed away at 102, I believe. So I come home in 2004 and I'm witnessing this kid and I'm just watching, you know, all of this magic kind of transpires. I have a nice family, not to say my big family, but my own personal family. You know, I have another daughter, she's 23 now. My youngest daughter had been born in 2007, her name's Madison, and then I have another son, his name's Aiden. But you know, now, throughout the course of this time, I got this family and everything is pretty good for the most part. You know, we're doing what families do. Nothing's perfect, but even outside of getting divorced, we found a way to make everything work. So I had wind up coming out of the institution and having to take my nephew from my sister so that way he wouldn't go to social services. I don't even know if I was home 6 months yet and all of this had went down. But anyway, you know, he was now living with us 10 years. 2011, which was 7 years roughly to this day, you know, August. Just so many life-altering circumstances. So, me, I left the streets alone. Went through all kinds of HE double hockey sticks, you know, just to get away from it. I mean, guns in my face, things I had to just literally, I could have died for, right? Had these men decided to pull the trigger. But it was either I do or I don't, right? And I needed out. I didn't want out, I needed to get out. I needed to get out and be able to stay out. So I had to suffer through those things. Now 2011, my son gets shot. And I enter into this hospital and they're telling me what happened. So, you know, once the doctors told me that his spinal cord was severed from his brain, for me, I knew it was no coming back. Even if he lived, he would never be in the same state or the same condition that he was in. And that would never be a life for that kid. He was too outgoing. That probably was my biggest fear. I walk these New Haven streets every day and I feel like I'm king in this city. All the wrong that I've done here, all the things that me and my friends have experienced here, I literally could walk around this city now without a bulletproof vest on, without a gun, without protection. But the one thing I couldn't do was protect my child from these streets. And it never sits well with me. The one thing that allowed me to maintain, because I gave up on this city that day, and the people that I associate with, we never really did nice things in these instances. So it was always an eye for an eye effect, right? But I got 10 kids on this list, and I know all 10 parents. I've had all 10 of these kids probably at my house 10 times or more, spending nights with me in rooms away on these basketball trips, some of these children, right? And had I not had a rational mind, I would have killed all 10 of those children, trying to feel good, I guess, about what happened to my son. It's crazy. Seven years ago, I checked out. Checked out on life. So even though I've been around, I haven't really been here. I never had time to mourn for my son because the following year my daughter's mother passed away from sickle cell complications. I couldn't leave her in the care for other family members because they didn't want me to see her anymore. They tried to take her from me, so I had to take her. I've just been a locomotive ever since, nonstop. I can't stop because I have too many people depending on me, right? The one fortunate thing I did was I ran into a mentor. And this man brought me back. He saved my life, right? When I was ready to throw everything away. Do what I wanted to do, and probably I would have lived with no regrets. But he showed me something. just enough to make me want to carry on. Right, so now I go back to this funeral. And during this time, I'm going into this funeral and I don't really notice much. It wasn't until we walked out of that church that I noticed that it seemed like a whole city stood still to pay homage and respect for my son. And in that instance, I knew I was never gonna leave here. I knew I was gonna do everything in my ability to help try to change this city and provide some safety for these children. So I've been on a mission ever since, right?